Usually when we grab a book from the stack for a deep dive, I have a pretty good idea of the vibe before we even crack the spine.
Oh, yeah. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Exactly. If we're covering a book on economics, I'm mentally preparing for charts, for inflation rates, maybe some, dry policy talk.
Right. Or history. You're ready for dates and battles and timelines.
For sure. But today's source material, it completely threw me for a loop. We're looking at The Science of Meditation by Waishan Shia, specifically chapters 7 through 12. And honestly, I went in with a very specific set of expectations. I was expecting incense.
Of course.
I was expecting flattery language about oneness and cosmic energy. I was fully expecting to be told to buy a specific type of cushion.
And
So that kind of
instead, I felt like I was reading an instruction manual for a high-performance biological machine.
That's a great way to put it.
There is almost zero woo-woo in these chapters. It's physics, it's biology, it's structural engineering, and it is surprisingly, brutally logical. That is precisely why we picked this one for a deep dive. She is doing something really bold here.
What's that?
He is attempting a complete demolition job on the way we typically talk about meditation.
A demolition job. I like that.
Yeah, he's stripping away thousands of years of religious dogma, of cultural ritual, all that mystical language, to answer one simple, fundamental question.
That is.
What is physically, mechanically happening to the human hardware when we meditate?
And his answer is, well, it's pretty controversial. It's provocative.
Yeah.
And I want to start right there with the hook that grabbed me in the introduction.
Okay.
He defines meditation with a paradox. He calls it awake sleep.
Awake sleep. Yeah, it sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it?
Totally. Like dry water or cold fire.
Exactly.
If I'm asleep, I'm not awake. If I'm awake, I'm not asleep. I mean, that's how the binary works.
Right, but Shia argues that this isn't a metaphor. He's not being poetic.
He means it literally.
He means it literally. He's saying that meditation is a distinct biological state where you basically hack the system. You keep your conscious mind online. That's the awake part.
Yeah.
But you trick your body into shutting down as if it's in deep REM sleep. That's the sleep part.
Okay, let's pause on that because the implications of that one idea are huge.
They're massive. If meditation is essentially a biological state, a specific type of sleep architecture, then we have to rethink everything we know about the so-called spiritual side of it.
So all those mystical experiences people talk about, the visions, the feelings of floating, the sudden surges of heat or energy,
You're saying they aren't magic.
they are magic.
No, they are physiological changes. They're the side effects of what happens to a central nervous system when you decouple the mind from the body's sleep cycle.
So it completely reframes the conversation. It goes from spiritual seeking to, what, biohacking?
Exactly. You aren't contacting the spirit world. You are accessing a hidden admin mode in your own biology.
Which makes a lot more sense when you look at the author's background. He talks about his father quite a bit in the early chapters. His father was a Qigong master, right?
Yes. So Shia grew up watching his father practice Qigong, seeing these incredible feats of control and relaxation.
But she is a modern thinker.
Completely. And through his own exploration, he had this realization that Qigong, yoga, Zen, mindfulness, underneath the robes and the different terminologies, they are all running the exact same engine under the hood.
He wants to find the mechanics of that machine.
Yeah.
He wants to know how the gears turn.
Yep.
So let's get into those gears. The first big claim he makes, and this is in chapter 7, it honestly made me stop and reread the page.
I know the one you're talking about.
He says that despite the thousands of books on technique, despite all the complex lineages and schools of thought, there's actually only one key element to meditation. Just one.
It's stillness.
Stillness. Not the breath, not the mantra, not visualizing a lotus flower, just not moving.
It seems too simple to be true, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like we're missing something big.
But this is where the biology kicks in. The author explains that your body is, it's just covered in sensors.
Right.
You have proprioceptors in your muscles, nerve endings in your skin, the vestibular system in your inner ear. These are constantly 24/7 feeding data to your brain.
Right. They are the status report.
Yeah.
They're telling the brain, I'm walking, I'm typing, I'm scratching my nose, I'm upright.
Precisely. It's a constant stream of noise, of data. Now, when you maintain absolute total stillness, and he means absolute, not just sitting quietly but rigidly still,
Okay.
those sensors stop sending movement data. The stream just goes silent. And after a certain period, the unconscious brain, the part of you that regulates heart rate, digestion, hormones, it looks at that lack of data and makes a logical assumption.
It assumes, well, the sensors aren't reporting any movement, so we must be asleep.
Correct. It's a false positive. You are tricking the operating system. And once the unconscious brain decides you're asleep, it starts the shutdown sequence. It inhibits motor nerves, it dulls sensory input, and most importantly, it flips the switch from the sympathetic nervous system.
Which is your fight or flight, your high alert mode.
Right. It flips from that to the parasympathetic nervous system.
Which is the rest and digest mode.
Exactly. That is the deep relaxation we associate with meditation. It's not some spiritual peace descending from the heavens. It's a parasympathetic dominance triggered by a lack of motion data. It is a biological reflex.
Okay, but I'm going to push back here because the book immediately addresses this, and it's the first thing I thought of.
I'm sure it is.
If stillness is the only thing that matters, if the whole game is just tricking these sensors, what about walking meditation? What about Tai Chi?
Right.
I've seen people do these slow-flowing martial arts moves, and they were definitely meditating. But they are definitely moving. It's a contradiction.
It's a glaring contradiction, isn't it? If stillness is the key, any movement should break the spell.
Yeah. The sensors should be screaming, movement, activity,
Mm.
and the brain should stay in awake mode.
It should.
So does that blow the theory out of the water?
No. And this is where we have to pivot from biology to, believe it or not, high school physics.
Okay.
To understand why Tai Chi works as meditation, we need to talk about Isaac Newton.
I did not expect to see Newton's laws of motion in a meditation guide, but I am here for it. Lay it on me.
So let's look at Newton's first law, the law of inertia. It states that an object not subject to an external force remains at rest, or, and this is the important part, or it moves at a constant speed in a straight line.
Right, I remember this. In the eyes of physics, rest and constant velocity are mathematically kind of the same state. They are both states of equilibrium.
Exactly. And here's the reveal. This is the piece that explains the walking meditation paradox. The sensors in your body, the ones telling your brain what you're doing.
Yeah.
They aren't velocity sensors. We don't have speedometers in our blood. They are accelerometers.
Accelerometers, like the chip in my phone that knows when I rotate the screen, or the sensors in a car airbag.
A very similar principle. Your body doesn't actually feel speed.
Right.
If you are on a plane doing 600 miles per hour, do you feel like you're moving 600 miles per hour?
No, not at all. As
And-
long as there's no turbulence, I can sip my coffee, and it feels like I'm sitting in my living room. I might feel a little vibration, but I don't feel the speed.
Because your speed is constant, you only feel the takeoff and the landing.
Push back in your seat.
You feel the change in speed. You feel acceleration and deceleration. That is what our biology is tuned to detect.
The author uses a great analogy here that really solidified it for me, the windowless cabin.
It's a classic thought experiment, yeah. It dates back to Galileo, actually, but he applies it perfectly here.
Okay, lay it out.
Imagine you are on a giant cruise ship. The ocean is glass smooth. You are in a cabin deep inside the hull, no window, so you have absolutely no visual reference.
Got it.
The ship is cruising at a steady 20 knots. Can you tell if the ship is moving?
If it's perfectly smooth. No, you'd have no idea. You could drop a ball and it would fall straight down. You could pour water and it wouldn't tilt. There's no sensation of movement.
Your body detects nothing. It registers the state as rest. Now apply this to walking meditation. In Zen walking meditation, or Kinhin, you aren't just strolling around looking at the flowers.
Oh, it's very deliberate.
Very. You are walking at a very specific, rhythmic, constant pace, usually in a straight line or a wide circle.
So to the body's accelerometers, that
Mhm.
constant steady pace just registers as zero data.
Exactly. It registers as stillness. The unconscious brain isn't getting any acceleration spikes, no jerks, no stops, no starts. So it assumes the body is at rest. It initiates the sleep sequence.
That is wild. It's like a loophole in our biological programming.
It is.
You can be moving through space, but if you do it smoothly enough, your brain thinks you're in bed.
And this explains Tai Chi and Qigong, too. Have you ever really watched how they move in those practices?
It's painfully slow. It's continuous, flowing, like they're moving underwater.
It's strictly regulated acceleration. They keep the change in velocity so minute, so tiny, that it falls below the threshold of the body's sensors.
Oh, so our sensors have a margin of error.
Of course. The author notes that our biological sensors aren't perfect scientific instruments. They have a margin of error. Tai Chi operates inside that margin of error.
So Tai Chi is basically hacking the body's accelerometers. You're moving, but you're moving so smoothly that your brain initiates the sleep sequence anyway.
That's the science part of the science of meditation. It demystifies why these different practices, sitting like a statue, walking in a straight line, doing slow Tai Chi, they all lead to the exact same mental state.
Because they all satisfy that one physical condition.
Zero or near zero acceleration.
This leads us perfectly into the next section of the book, which really challenged how I look at learning meditation.
The methods.
The author calls it deconstructing methods, because if doing nothing or staying still is the only requirement to trigger this biological state, then why is the library full of books on complex techniques?
Right, why all the complication?
Why do we have breathwork, visualizations, mantras, mudras, chakras? Are we just overcomplicating things for no reason?
The author argues that yes, we are, but for a very human reason.
Which is?
It's a psychological barrier. If I tell you, hey, to achieve the highest state of human consciousness, just sit there and do literally nothing, you won't believe me.
It feels unearned. It feels too easy.
Exactly.
We're obsessed with doing. We equate effort with results. If I'm not working at it, surely nothing is happening.
Exactly. The conscious mind hates a vacuum. It gets bored. It starts making grocery lists or worrying about that email you sent. So the author distinguishes between the ultimate method, which is just stillness, and what he calls convenient methods.
Convenient methods. I like that term. It sounds like white lies.
In a way they are. Focusing on your breath, counting beads, chanting a mantra. These are just tricks.
Tricks for what?
They're pacifiers for the conscious mind. They keep the monkey mind busy with a simple repetitive task so that the body can stay still long enough for the biological sleep process to kick in.
It's like giving a toddler an iPad so you can drive the car. The iPad isn't driving the car, but it stops the toddler from grabbing the steering wheel.
That is a surprisingly accurate analogy. The mantra is the iPad. The driving is the physiological shift into deep relaxation. The mantra doesn't cause the relaxation, the stillness does. The mantra just makes the stillness possible for a restless mind.
Okay, now there is a concept he introduces here called reverse causality that really flipped a switch for me.
This is a big one.
I think this is where a lot of people, myself included, get stuck. We confuse the results of meditation with the methods of meditation.
This is a crucial distinction, and understanding it can save a beginner years of frustration. Let's take the most common one, breathing.
Right.
In yoga, you have pranayama, or breath control. Beginners are often told to breathe slowly, deeply, and evenly.
Oh, man. I've been there trying to breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7, out for 8. I end up gasping for air. It's stressful.
It is stressful.
I'm sitting there counting and panicking because my lungs are burning and I'm supposed to be relaxing.
But because you're forcing the result, you are trying to engineer a state from the outside in. The author argues that slow, even breathing isn't something you do to meditate.
It's something that happens because you're meditating.
Precisely.
Okay, explain that mechanism. Why does it happen?
Think about it biologically. When the body enters that deep awake sleep state, when the parasympathetic nervous system takes over what happens, your metabolic rate drops.
Okay.
Your heart rate slows. Your oxygen demand plummets because you aren't burning energy. You simply don't need to breathe as much.
So the breath slows down naturally because the engine is idling.
Exactly. The slow breath is a symptom of the state, not the cause. But beginners see a master meditating with slow breath and they think, I must force my breath to be slow to become a master.
That is reverse causality.
You are mimicking the symptom but not the cause.
It's like trying to fall asleep by forcing yourself to snore. Snoring happens because you're asleep. Snoring doesn't cause sleep.
Yeah.
If you fake snore, you're just making noise while awake.
Brilliant. Yes. A perfect analogy. And he applies this to emptying the mind, too.
That's the other big one.
You can't force your mind to be empty. Try it right now. Don't think of a pink elephant.
I'm thinking of a pink elephant. It's the only thing I can think of now. He has a little hat on.
See? But if you keep the body still and enter that physiological sleep state, the brain activity naturally settles down. The inputs decrease. The mind empties itself as a result of the state.
So it's an automatic byproduct of the biology, not a mental act of will.
Exactly.
He applies this to posture, too, which I found really relieving. The whole chest in, back straight. I always
It's
thought I had to hold myself rigidly in that position, like a soldier at attention.
But if you look at how people sleep, especially on their sides, the body naturally curls a bit. The chest caves in slightly, the back elongates. It's a relaxed structural stability. Forcing a military posture requires muscle tension, and muscle tension signals activity to the brain.
So by trying to sit up too straight,
Mm.
I'm actually keeping myself awake. I'm telling my accelerometers, we are active.
Precisely. You're fighting the very state you're trying to achieve. The correct meditation posture is just the most naturally stable, relaxed position for the skeleton where the muscles can turn off. It's about structure, not discipline.
This brings us to the most out there part of the method section, the geometry analogy regarding the mystical stuff.
Ah, yes.
We're talking chi, meridians, chakras. The author takes a pretty hard scientific stance here, doesn't he?
He does. He is a materialist in this sense. He bluntly states that from a modern medical and anatomical perspective, these things simply do not exist.
Oof.
You can dissect a cadaver all day. You will never find a meridian line. You will never find a chakra organ. There is no physical evidence for them.
That's going to upset a lot of practitioners. But, and it's big, but he doesn't say they are useless.
No, and this is the brilliance of the geometry analogy. Do you remember auxiliary lines in high school geometry?
Vaguely. Those are the dotted lines you draw on a shape to help you solve a proof.
Right. Let's say you have a strange shape and you need to calculate the area. It's too complex. So you might draw a dotted line through the middle to divide it into two simple triangles.
Okay, I remember that.
Now, that dotted line isn't part of the actual shape. It doesn't exist in the original problem. But drawing it makes the solution obvious. It makes the math possible.
So imagining a ball of light in your stomach or a channel of energy running up your spine.
Those are auxiliary lines for the mind.
Wow.
They aren't anatomically real. You don't actually have a ball of light in your gut, but visualizing them helps the meditator achieve the state of stillness and focus. They are tools to orient the mind.
So if focusing on my heart chakra keeps me still and focuses my mind, it works, even if there's no physical chakra there.
Exactly. The utility of the concept is real, even if the physical reality isn't. The danger, the author warns, is when people mistake the auxiliary line for the reality.
That's when you get into what he calls nonsense or fraud.
Yes, when people start selling the auxiliary lines as medical facts.
Right. Use the visualization if it works for you, but don't confuse the map with the territory.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, let's get physical again. We've talked about the theory of stillness, but the book goes into the actual mechanics of sitting. And again, it's not spiritual, it's structural engineering.
It is pure physics. It's about statics. Stability depends on two things: your center of gravity and your base area.
Right.
The lower the center of gravity and the wider the base, the more stable you are. Simple as that.
So let's look at the different poses. We have the full lotus. That's the pretzel one where both feet are on the opposite thighs.
The full lotus forms a perfect equilateral triangle on the ground. Your knees and your hips are locked in. It is physically the most stable structure a human body can make while sitting.
You could almost fall asleep and not tip over.
Almost. It requires almost zero muscle effort to maintain once you are in it.
But it's so hard. My hips scream just thinking about it. Most people can't do it.
And that's the trade-off. It's high stability, but it demands high flexibility. Then you have half lotus, which is somewhere between an equilateral and an isosceles triangle, less stable.
And then easy pose, just crossing your legs loosely.
That forms an isosceles triangle with a much smaller base. It's the least stable of the three.
And when you're unstable, your muscles have to work to keep you upright. They're constantly micro-adjusting.
Which breaks the stillness rule. If your muscles were firing to keep you from tipping over, the unconscious brain detects that activity and says, "We aren't asleep yet, stay alert."
But he offers a hack for those of us who can't do the full lotus without surgery. The sponge hack.
I love this. It's such a simple, elegant piece of engineering.
Explain it.
If your knees are floating in the air in easy pose, you're unstable. Your base is just your butt. So you just wedge two sponges or yoga blocks or pillows under your knees so they touch the ground.
You artificially widen your base area.
Exactly. You create that solid triangle support so your muscles can finally relax and turn off.
I love that. You don't need years of yoga flexibility. You just need a couple of kitchen sponges.
It's brilliantly practical.
But he also issues a serious warning here. There's this more is better mentality in meditation circles. You know, I sat for 4 hours today. I'm so spiritual.
Yes. The author pushes back hard on this. He points out that the full lotus, while stable, puts massive torque on the knee joints, and it cuts off circulation.
He gets really specific about the potential for permanent damage.
He does, twisting the knees, compressing blood vessels. He's very clear. Pain is a warning signal. Don't ignore it.
He basically says, don't destroy your body to enlighten your mind.
It's completely counterproductive. If you are in screaming pain, you are not relaxed. Your sympathetic nervous system is firing like crazy. You aren't in awake sleep, you're in awake torture.
Right.
You are actively fighting the biological state you are trying to achieve.
He suggests using technology to be smarter about this. He brings up smartwatches.
This was a fascinating application of data. He talks about the warm-up time.
Huh?
Let's say your watch tells you it takes you 20 minutes to hit deep sleep at night. It probably takes a similar amount of time to hit a deep meditative state. Your body needs time to power down.
So if you only meditate for 30 minutes, you get 20 minutes of warm-up and only 10 minutes of the good stuff.
Right. That's a low efficiency ratio. It's not a great use of your time. But if you meditate for 60 minutes, you still have the 20-minute warm-up, but now you get 40 minutes of deep state.
One 60-minute session is 4 times more effective than 2 30-minute sessions in terms of time spent in the deep zone.
Exactly. It's an efficiency hack.
But again, you have to balance it with safety. If your legs go dead in 40 minutes, listen to your body. He even says chair meditation or lying down is totally valid.
Because remember the first rule. The only key is stillness. A chair is stable. Lying down is stable. If you can stay awake while lying down, which is the hard part, most of us just nap, it is biologically identical to the full lotus,
The position is irrelevant.
as long as it allows for total stillness.
So, moving from the mechanics of the body to the mechanics of history. Section 4 covers this massive intellectual beef between East and West.
Oh, yeah.
We have 2 heavyweights, Hu Shi and D.T. Suzuki.
This is a clash of civilizations in 2 people. It's fascinating.
So who were they?
Hu Shi was a pragmatic, Western-influenced historian and philosopher in China. He wanted facts, dates, evidence. He was all about verifiable proof.
And Suzuki?
D.T. Suzuki was the Zen master of the world. He was the one who really introduced Zen to the West. He dealt in intuition, experience, the unspoken.
And they went at it over the history of Zen. Hu Shi basically called 90% of Zen history a fraud.
He did. He went into the archives and said it was nonsense, forgery, and pretension. And to be fair, from a purely historical perspective, he was right.
How so?
Many of the Zen stories didn't line up with historical records. Documents were faked. Lineages were invented to give schools legitimacy. To a historian like Hu Shi, looking at the paperwork, it looks like a giant scam.
And Suzuki's clapback. What did he say to that?
Suzuki essentially said, you understand the history, but you don't understand the Zen.
Mm-hmm.
He argued that Hu Shi was just looking at the outer shell, the container. Suzuki believed that Zen is an experience that transcends logic and history. He admitted that, yes, maybe the history is woven with imagination, but that imagination is necessary to convey the truth of the experience.
It's the difference between analyzing the ink on a menu and actually eating the food.
Perfect.
Hu Shi is critiquing the font choice. Suzuki's enjoying the meal.
That's a perfect analogy, and the author brings in another analogy here to explain this gap. The blind person and the color green.
This one really clarified the whole mysticism thing for me.
It's powerful. You can teach a blind person math. You can teach them logic. You can explain that the wavelength of light for green is 550 nanometers.
So they can understand the concept of green intellectually.
Absolutely. But you can never, ever explain the experience of seeing the color green.
It's impossible.
Because language is based on shared experience.
Yeah.
If we don't share the sensory experience, we have no words for it. The author argues that meditation creates a sensory experience, a biological shift that most people haven't had. It is a new color.
So when the ancient masters tried to write it down, they sounded cryptic. The sound of one hand clapping, the face before you were born.
Right.
They weren't trying to be confusing just for the hell of it.
No, they were struggling with the language barrier. They were trying to describe a nonverbal biological state using words. It's like trying to describe a dream.
The authors suggest Hu Shi had the logic, but lacked the experience. He was the blind man studying the physics of light.
And Suzuki had the experience, but lacked the biological understanding. He was seeing the color, but calling it magic instead of photon processing.
And the science of meditation approach tries to bridge that gap.
Exactly. It validates the experience, Suzuki, but explains it through biology, Hu Shi's logic. It removes the mystery without denying the reality of the feeling. It respects both the historian and the mystic.
Now, speaking of reality, we need to talk about section 5. Because the book goes from meditation as sleep to something way, way more radical.
Yeah, this is where it gets into sci-fi territory.
The hibernation hypothesis.
This is where we push the boundaries of human potential. The author asks a simple question. If meditation is a deep sleep state, how deep can it go? Can it go deeper than normal sleep?
And he brings in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
Turtles, lemurs.
Right. He looks at hibernation. Now, hibernation isn't just long sleep, it's metabolic suspension. A North American box turtle's heart beats once every 5 to 10 minutes during hibernation.
Wow.
It stops aging, essentially. It's paused.
And the lemur is important because it's a primate, like us.
Yes, the fat-tailed dwarf lemur. It hibernates for 7 months of the year. This proves that primates, our close genetic cousins, can hibernate. The hardware is in the genetics somewhere.
We didn't lose the genes. We just stopped using the app.
That's a great way to put it. And then we look at human anomalies. The case of Anna Bogenholm, the skier trapped under ice.
This story is terrifying and miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
She was skiing, fell, and got trapped under the ice in a freezing stream for over an hour.
Over an hour under ice? That should be certain death.
Absolutely.
Her body temperature dropped to 14 degrees Celsius, that's 57 degrees Fahrenheit. She had no heartbeat, no breathing. She was clinically dead.
But she survived.
She was resurrected in the hospital with no brain damage. Because she was so cold, her metabolism slowed to a crawl. Her cells stopped demanding oxygen. Her brain hadn't starved. It had just paused.
And Mitsutaka Uchikoshi, the hiker who got lost.
24 days on a freezing mountain with no food or water. His body temp dropped to 22 degrees Celsius. He survived. Doctors believe his body instinctively entered a hibernation state to survive.
So the hardware for hibernation exists in humans. We just don't know where the switch is. It seems to trigger accidentally in extreme cold.
And the author suggests meditation might be the manual override for that switch.
So deep meditation could trick the unconscious brain into thinking, okay, we are in an extreme dormant state, let's activate the ancient hibernation genes.
It's a hypothesis, but a powerful one, and we see glimpses of this in survival situations. Remember the Thai cave rescue in 2018?
Oh, vividly. The soccer team trapped in the cave, it was all over the news.
The coach was a former monk. He taught those kids to meditate.
I remember that detail.
They were trapped in the dark with low oxygen and no food for days. Panic would have killed them. It burns through oxygen. But meditation lowered their metabolic rate, conserved their oxygen, and kept them calm. It very likely saved their lives.
It's not just relaxation, it's a survival mode. It's metabolic efficiency.
Right. And the author extrapolates this to space travel, which feels like a sci-fi leap at first, but it tracks.
How so?
NASA and the ESA are looking at this seriously. If you want to go to Mars or beyond, you can't carry enough food and water for a fully active crew for years. The payload is too heavy, you need to put them in stasis.
And currently, the medical way to do that, therapeutic hypothermia, is risky and complex. It requires drugs and machines.
But what if you could train astronauts to meditate into a hibernation state? If you could teach them to access that awake sleep deeply enough to drop their metabolism by 50% or 75%, that's the low-tech, high-biology solution. The author paints a picture where the mystical state of nirvana might actually be the biological key to interstellar travel.
From the cave to the stars. That is a hell of a trajectory. Connects the dots in a way I have never seen before.
It really does. It turns meditation from a wellness trend into, well, an evolutionary survival skill.
Before we wrap up, we have to touch on the title of the book, Why the Science of Meditation.
Right.
The author had an interaction with a professor, Dr. Stephen Sloman at Brown University, that changed his mind on this.
The author originally wanted to call it The Essence of Meditation. Sloman critiqued that. He said, essence isn't a scientific word. Science deals in hypotheses that can be tested. Essence is just an opinion.
This brings us to Karl Popper and the philosophy of science, the black swan theory.
Right. This is so important. Popper argued that you can never prove a scientific theory is 100% true. You can only prove it is false.
Wait, unpack that for us. That sounds completely counterintuitive.
Okay, take the statement, all swans are white. You can see a million white swans. You can document them all over Europe. But you haven't proven the statement is true forever.
Because there might be a non-white one somewhere else.
Exactly. There could be a black one around the corner in Australia, but if you see one black swan, just one, you have falsified the statement. You know for a fact it's false.
So science is about making statements that can be proven wrong. It's about being testable.
Exactly. It's called falsifiability. If I say there are invisible, intangible golden swans in the sky, That is not scientific. Why? Because you can't prove they don't exist. There's no way to test it. It's faith, not science.
So how does this apply to the book?
The author admits his theories like meditation is sleep or the body's sensors or accelerometers might not be correct. He might be totally wrong.
But they're scientific.
They are scientific because they are falsifiable. They make testable predictions.
Right. If we find a way to meditate while sprinting and changing speed erratically,
Yeah.
then the stillness accelerometer theory is proven wrong. We found the black swan.
Precisely. And by putting these theories out there to be tested and attacked, he is doing science. He is moving the conversation from dogma, which can't be questioned, to science, which invites questioning.
He's inviting the reader to find the black swan.
He is.
That is a refreshing humility. He's not saying, I am the guru, believe me. He's saying, here is my hypothesis, try to break it.
And that is the only way knowledge progresses. You have to be willing to be wrong.
So what does this all mean for us? We've gone from the physics of accelerometers to the geometry of sitting, the history of Zen, and the biology of hibernation. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it all centers on that one core concept. Mastery of the body's stillness unlocks a different biological state. It's a hardware switch we all have, but we rarely use it.
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought from the book that I found really, really provocative. The author mentions the pianist Vladimir Horowitz.
Ah, yes. Horowitz, one of the greatest pianists of all time, he famously said, playing the piano is the easiest thing in the world.
Which is a massive flex. But the author disagrees. He challenges Horowitz. He says, no, playing piano requires doing something. It requires finger movement, reading music, interpretation.
It's an action.
Right. Meditation is literally doing nothing. So technically, meditation should be the easiest thing in the world.
And yet, look around. Look at ourselves. We find it excruciatingly difficult to sit in a room alone and do absolutely nothing.
There's that study where people would rather have electric shocks.
Yes. They would rather give themselves a painful shock than sit in silence with their own thoughts.
The philosopher Pascal said all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
It raises a profound question. If doing nothing, the simplest possible state, is the hardest thing for modern humans to achieve, what does that say about our evolutionary state?
What do you think it says?
That we are wired for constant input, constant acceleration. We are addicted to the data stream.
And perhaps mastering that awake sleep, that ability to power down the engine while keeping the driver awake, is the next step in our evolution. Maybe we need to learn to hibernate before we can reach the stars.
Or at least before we can find a little peace in our own living rooms.
Absolutely. So here is my challenge to you, the listener. Test the theory. Be a scientist. Try the stillness. See if you can hack your own accelerometers.
And don't worry about the incense. Just find a comfortable chair and some quiet.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.